After Ethan's elder brother fled the marriage, my arranged marriage partner was forced to be changed to him. I originally thought that this marriage was against the will of both of us, so I deliberately kept a distance from him after marriage. It wasn't until he passed away unexpectedly that, at the very bottom of his safe, I found a photo of me from my high school days and a thick diary about me. So, the girlfriend my brother mentioned is Scarlett. It's the 3748th day that I like Scarlett. She's going to marry me. But not because she loves me. How wonderful it would be if Scarlett could take one more look at me. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to shortly after our wedding. This time, I directly threw myself into Ethan's arms and acted cockathiously. The man who was always composed was completely flustered. The bedroom door was knocked. Ethan walked in with some documents in his hand. "This is the prenuptial agreement you mentioned before. I had the lawyer draw it up, and I've already signed it." The long and heard clear and cold voice was a bit hoarse. He put the documents on the table and left the bedroom. My gaze kept following him, until that figure disappeared outside the door. All of this was so absurd. I pinched myself hard. This wasn't a dream. Glancing at the time on my phone, I had really been reborn back to 3 years ago. It was shortly after my marriage to Ethan. I picked up the agreement on the table. Memories of my past life gradually emerged in my mind. My marriage to Ethan was an accident. I was originally supposed to marry his elder brother, Jason. I had been in a relationship with Jason for 2 years. Our two families were well matched, and it was natural for us to talk about marriage. But unexpectedly, shortly after the engagement, Jason left a farewell letter and eloped with my so-called best friend, Mia. I can't remember how I finished reading that letter. I only remember that in the letter, Jason said that agreeing to marry me was just a momentary impulse. Only now did he finally realize who he truly loved. He didn't want to lead any regrets in his life. With a bold stroke, he went to pursue his love and freedom. He left me alone, facing the half-completed wedding planning and the condemnation of the two families. The marriage alliance between the two families was a certainty, and many projects of the company had already been carried forward because of it. In order to keep the marriage alliance going and, more importantly, to maintain the so-called reputation of the two families, the person who married me was changed to Ethan. Ethan is Jason's biological younger brother. But I didn't know much about him. Ethan is 2 years younger than us. In high school, I met him a few times at school. At that time, I didn't know he was Jason's younger brother. The two of them were so different. Jason was always ostentatious, while Ethan was extremely quiet and reserved. I only knew that he was the super handsome junior who transferred to our school in the first year of senior high. He seemed rather indifferent. Every time we met, he would just lower his head and walk by in a hurry, not looking at anyone. Later, after being with Jason, I learned the reason behind it. When Ethan was born, the Ethan family's company happened to be in a financial crisis. His parents didn't have the energy to take care of him, so they sent him to his grandmother's house. Ethan had been growing up in the countryside with his grandmother before. After his grandmother passed away, he was brought back to the Ethan family and transferred to our school for senior high. Ethan has a rather cold personality. He usually comes and goes alone and isn't close to his family members. Jason dislikes this younger brother very much. He described Ethan as a withdrawn freak. When Jason took me home to meet his parents, Ethan happened to be there too. But he just glanced at me indifferently, and then turned around and went upstairs. Jason's mother was a bit unhappy and explained to me, "Scarlett, don't mind. Jason's younger brother didn't grow up with us. He was raised in the countryside and lacks discipline. He's not as well-mannered as our Jason." I felt a bit uncomfortable hearing these words. But after all, it was a private matter of their family, so I just pursed my lips and didn't say anything. I didn't expect Ethan to really agree to marry me. On the wedding day, he was wearing a well-tailored white suit, looking like a handsome prince from a fairy tale. It made my heart skip a beat. But I knew that Ethan married me just under the pressure of the family. I didn't love him, and he definitely didn't love me either. In this marriage against the will of both of us, the innocent him became the biggest victim. I felt extremely guilty about this. In order not to bother Ethan more, I deliberately kept a distance from him after marriage. We lived under the same roof, but we always slept in separate rooms and didn't disturb each other. He came home on time every day, but he never communicated with me. I thought we would keep going on like this, or we could find a suitable opportunity to get a divorce. But unexpectedly, Ethan suddenly died in a car accident, leaving me alone to face everything. I numbly dealt with his funeral. I stared at his tombstone for a long time, lost in thought. Jason's father and mother left all of Ethan's family property to Jason. All of Ethan's property was accumulated little by little after he started his own business. It was more than 30 pages of inheritance. According to Ethan's last wish, it was all left to me. Clearly, we didn't have a deep relationship. But on the inheritance certificate, the words "my wife" filled the entire page. It still made my vision gradually blur with tears. At that moment, my heart seemed to be gripped tightly, and the pain made me forget how to breathe. When sorting out Ethan's belongings, I opened the safe in his study. On the outermost layer were some confidential documents of Ethan's company. On the second layer was a delicate and retro wooden box. When I opened it, there was a jade bracelet of excellent quality inside. Under the jade bracelet was a piece of paper. The paper was yellowed, and the handwriting on it had also faded a bit. Grandma didn't have the chance to see Ethan grow up and get married, so she left this jade bracelet for Ethan's sweetheart. This should be the keepsake left to Ethan by his grandmother before she passed away, hoping that he could give it to the person he liked at that time. I held the piece of paper. My voice choked up. It was all my fault for involving him in this marriage. I made Ethan unable to be with the person he loved until his death. I carefully put all these things away and set them aside. At the very bottom of the safe was a small cardboard box. A photo frame was placed upside down on the top. The moment I saw the content of the photo, I froze in place as if struck by lightning. It was actually a photo of me from my high school days. In the photo, I was wearing a school uniform, and my face still had a youthful and innocent look. I was making a V gesture towards the camera. I looked at the photo, unable to remember when it was taken. Why did Ethan hide a photo of me from my high school days? There was a layer of dust on the position next to the cardboard box. But this photo frame was as clean as new. Obviously, having fulfilled where I'd say, someone often wiped it. There couldn't be anyone else but Ethan. A bolder and more absurd idea emerged in my mind. I tremblingly took out that thick diary from the cardboard box. On the title page, Ethan wrote with elegant handwriting, "I must tell Scarlett in person in the future that I like her." On the countless pages after that, it was more like a letter that couldn't be sent than a diary. Every page was written to me. Ethan shared interesting things with me and also revealed his own uneasiness. After his grandmother passed away, the people of the Ethan family had to bring Ethan back, but he knew that no one in this family welcomed him. Jason and his family of 3 were happy together. He was like living under someone else's roof, being cautious. And I became his only source of support. On every page, the last sentence was, "Scarlett, when I earn a lot of money, will I have the courage to stand in front of you and express my love?" But later, there was a long gap in the diary. When he picked up the pen again, the first sentence Ethan wrote was, "So, the girlfriend my brother mentioned is Scarlett." The trembling handwriting was intermittent and was finally blurred by tears. I finally understood the way Ethan fled when he saw me for the first time when we met in the Ethan family. I couldn't imagine the pain Ethan had at that time. His parents both favored Jason. And now even I loved him. After that, the incident of Jason fleeing the marriage happened. It turned out that the encounter by the seaside that day wasn't a coincidence. Ethan was afraid that I might do something stupid, so he had been secretly following me from behind. I sat alone by the seaside for a whole day. Ethan stood not far away and watched over me for a whole day. The day before our wedding, Ethan wrote in his diary, "It's the 3748th day that I like Scarlett. She's going to marry me. But not because she loves me. What a pity. I'm not my brother. Would Scarlett be a bit happier then? She looks really beautiful in her wedding dress. How wonderful it would be if Scarlett could take one more look at me. But my appearance will only make Scarlett unhappy. She doesn't even want to see me." After Ethan's death, Those deeply hidden feelings were finally known to others. I sat on the ground, holding the diary, crying uncontrollably. Maybe even God couldn't stand the fact that we missed each other like this. It made me return to shortly after our wedding. Ethan didn't have a car accident. I also didn't encounter that premeditated fire. Everything was still in time. I opened the prenuptial agreement in my hand. On the first night of our marriage, Ethan took a pillow and went to the guest bedroom. I mistakenly thought that he disliked me very much and took the initiative to propose signing a prenuptial agreement, stating that we would live our own lives and never disturb each other. My original intention was actually to give Ethan freedom. Unexpectedly, in Ethan's view, it was proof that I disliked him. The misunderstanding between the two of us grew deeper and deeper. My fingertips holding the agreement turned slightly pale. When I came to my senses, I quickly tore up the agreement and threw it into the trash bin beside me. This time, I will definitely be with Ethan properly. Ethan went to the company. I opened the chat interface with Ethan, and it was really empty. I wanted to ask him when he would be home, but after thinking about the words for a long time, I didn't know how to start. With Ethan's sensitive mind, I didn't know what he would misunderstand my sudden show of kindness as. I lay on the bed and let out a long sigh. The road to winning my husband's heart is still a long and arduous one. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, I decided to go to his company to find him in person. The receptionist knew me and warmly guided me to the elevator. When I reached the top floor, Ethan's special assistant, Leo, was already waiting at the elevator entrance. Leo was Ethan's junior in university. He joined Ethan's company right after graduation and had been working with him. Naturally, he also knew the relationship between me and Ethan. When he saw me, he smiled and said, "Sister-in-law," as if he remembered something. He quickly changed his words, "Scarlett, are you here to see our boss?" I guessed it was what Ethan had told him. He was afraid that I would be unhappy to hear the address sister-in-law. I nodded gently, "Yes. I'm here to find Ethan." My gaze fell on Ethan's office not far away. I took 2 steps forward and then turned around and smiled at Leo, saying, "You can just call me sister-in-law in the future. It sounds friendly. And I like it." Leo stood there stunned for several seconds before he reacted. He quickly caught up with me and said in a clear voice, "Okay, sister-in-law." The volume wasn't very loud, but it was enough for everyone in the office area to hear. Everyone looked at me, and I felt a bit embarrassed. Ethan was having a meeting in the conference room. I was arranged to wait in his office. Counting the few years of getting along in my past life, this was also the first time I had been to Ethan's office. The minimalist black decorated style was just like Ethan himself. I was bored waiting, so I walked around his office. The sunlight in this corner was good. "I'll buy a money tree tomorrow and put it here." I sat down on Ethan's boss chair and leaned back a bit. I wondered what Ethan would think when he sat here. Would he be distracted and think of me during work? Ethan's computer wasn't shut down. I accidentally touched the mouse. And on the computer screen, there was a photo of me and Ethan taken on our wedding day. It was probably also our only group photo. I used our wedding photo as the wallpaper on my phone. He even flipped the photo horizontally to make sure that those app icons wouldn't block my face. He clearly liked me so much. Yet he still pretended not to care whenever he faced me every day. Ethan, what do you think about when you see these things every day?" Suddenly, having felt me, the door of the office was pushed open. Ethan walked in. Although he tried his best to hold it back, he couldn't hide the eagerness in his eyes. He looked at me, and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. Then his gaze landed on the computer that was still on, and his face turned pale instantly. I quickly stood up and explained, "I didn't touch anything in your computer." "Okay." Ethan came over and looked at me. The tall man of 1.86 meters seemed a bit at a loss. He explained in a low voice, "I just think this photo looks really nice." He was afraid that if his delusion was exposed, I would be annoyed with him. So he quickly lowered his head again. Unexpectedly, he heard me say, "I also think this photo is really well taken. It makes us look really well matched." We looked like a perfect couple with his talent and my beauty. Ethan looked up in disbelief, thinking he had heard wrongly. I continued. Ethan, when our first anniversary comes, let's take another set of photos like this. We should have a new set every year. When we're old and look back at them, it will definitely be very meaningful. Ethan had changed from disbelief to hesitation. I was actually planning our future together. He was a bit slow to react, so I directly reached out and hugged him. Through his suit, I could still feel the burning heat on Ethan's body, as if he was on fire. Ethan's voice became hoarse. Did you call me here because there's something wrong with that prenuptial agreement? He was trying his best to guess all the possible reasons. Sure enough, he didn't believe that I would show my kindness to him for no reason. I shook my head. Ethan, I've already torn up that agreement. We are a legally married couple. And we don't need such a prenuptial agreement. I just want to be with you properly. All the way until we walked out of the company and got into the car, the hand that Ethan was holding mine with, interlacing our fingers, was stiff. His driver rarely saw me and Ethan appear together, so he couldn't help but take a few extra glances at the back seat. Ethan's cheeks turned red. There was a traffic jam on the way. I looked at the endless line of cars ahead, took out my phone, and was going to complain to my best friend Cindy. I let go of Ethan's hand. In an instant, he felt a sense of loss. I turned my head and only then noticed that Ethan had been staring at the hand that he had just held with mine. His long eyelashes were lowered, but they still couldn't hide the deep disappointment and self-mockery in his eyes. I quickly guessed what he was thinking, so I simply lay down in his arms. Ethan pursed his lips, and his tensed-up body was as stiff as a steel plate. The car started and then stopped, making my body a bit unsteady. Ethan tentatively put his hand on my shoulder and hugged me. I didn't feel antipathy. He seemed to let out a sigh of relief. The driver said at the right moment, President Ethan and his wife have such a good relationship. This time, Ethan didn't refute it. Instead, he softly responded with an okay, because he saw that I had also changed my phone wallpaper to our wedding photo. In the evening, Ethan cooked a plate of fried sauce noodles himself. It's really delicious. I'm glad you like it. I can't believe that with all the busy company business you have every day, you can still find the time to improve your cooking skills. I could cook when I was 6 years old. There was pride mixed with an indescribable bitterness in Ethan's voice. I lowered my head and paused for a moment. It's hard to imagine that Jason could casually say. He used to be raised at his grandmother's house. Later, when his grandmother died, they had no choice but to bring him back. Yes, nothing fulfilled my say. Later Ethan's only grandmother also left him. But it doesn't matter. He will have me from now on. After dinner, the two of us walked side by side towards the second floor. When passing by the master bedroom, Ethan said, Well, it's getting late today. You should go to bed early. And he pushed open the door of the adjacent guest bedroom. I looked at his back as he fled again. I was speechless and choked up. Are we going to sleep in separate rooms again? After thinking about it for a moment, I decided to let it go. Relationships develop slowly over time. If I'm in such a hurry to get closer to him, it might have the opposite effect. I didn't sleep soundly that night. I dreamed of the raging fire in my previous life again. It was like a purgatory, trapping my steps. I suddenly woke up from the dream. I looked at the time on my phone and it was only 6 in the morning. I usually wake up at 9. I got out of bed and was going to go downstairs to the refrigerator to get a can of Coke to calm my nerves. As soon as I went out, I ran into Ethan coming out of the adjacent room, holding a bedsheet in his arms. Good morning. Being 2 years younger, he has more energy. Ethan didn't expect me to wake up so early. His pupils trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly. The way he hugged the bedsheet tightly and the evasiveness in his eyes revealed his guilty conscience. But I had just woken up and was groggy, so I didn't notice these details. I just looked at him and asked, Are you going to wash the bedsheet? Yeah. It's dirty. Then give it to me. I also have some clothes to wash. I'll just give them to Aunt to deal with in the morning. However, Ethan took a step back while still holding the bedsheet in his arms. The tips of his ears were faintly red. He shook his head. No need. Come on. Don't be so polite. We're husband and wife. I thought he still wanted to keep his distance from me and didn't want to trouble me. So I reached out to pull the bedsheet from his hand. During the tug-of-war between us, the originally rolled-up bedsheet was unfolded. A purple object fell out of it. I took a closer look and instantly woke up, frozen in place. If I'm not mistaken, this small purple thing with a lace trim seems to be my bra. I remember it so clearly because I only bought one purple bra at that time. Later, it disappeared for no apparent reason. I thought I had forgotten where I put it and didn't pay much attention to it. Now it's in Ethan's hands. As a person who has been an adult for 10 years and has led to lifetimes, I know exactly what this means. Seeing that the matter had been exposed, Ethan was no longer as flustered as before. He calmly picked up the thing on the ground. His fingers gently stroked the lace on it. There was deep attachment in his eyes. I'm sorry. I accidentally got this dirty last night. I'll compensate you for it. He showed no sign of regret. My face turned red instantly. It was as if a rush of blood went straight to my head. No need. After saying that, I quickly rushed back to the master bedroom and closed the door. Then I silently roared inside. Aha! How could Ethan steal my intimate clothing and do that kind of thing? Is this still the aloof and ascetic Ethan? The flower of the lofty mountain that I know? Hearing my complaints, my best friend Cindy let out a sigh. Is it possible that Ethan, after all, is a man, and a normal young man of 26 years old? It's normal for a man at this age to have desires. Thinking of what happened in the morning, my face burned again. I wished I could find a place to bury myself. But this is still not right. Of course it's not right. I thought Cindy was agreeing with me. But unexpectedly, she changed the subject and said, "You two are a legally married couple. Why does it seem like you're having an affair? Does a husband need to hide his wife's intimate clothing? Didn't you tell me yesterday that you were going to win Ethan over? Now this is a great opportunity to bare your heart. Go for it." I fell silent. What she said made some sense. But in both of my lifetimes combined, I've never had an intimate physical relationship with a man. When I was dating Jason, the most we did was hold each other around the waist and kiss. When I finally made up my mind to suggest sleeping together with Ethan tonight, he sent me a message first. He transferred 500 yuan with the no compensation for the clothing. There was also another message. I'm going on a business trip to another city for a month. It's hard not to suspect that Ethan is trying to avoid me. In the past half a month, I've done mental preparation countless times. Finally, I convinced myself that we are a legally married couple. I've secretly seen Ethan's body. The muscular lines under his loose bathrobe are firm and smooth, making me drool. What's wrong with me craving my husband's body? But Ethan still hasn't come back from his business trip. Logically speaking, there's no need for the boss to go on a business trip for such a small project. Finally, having fulfilled my sigh, feeling anxious and restless, I took the initiative to call Ethan. Fun. I heard him respond softly. Okay. What's the matter? My heart was tingling. I got straight to the point. Ethan, are you avoiding me? He sounded a bit helpless. I'm not avoiding you. Yes, Tavisto. You are. Ethan. Are you worried that I would hate you because I caught you doing something bad with my things that day? All I got in response was a long silence on the other end. I don't know how long it took. Ethan asked tentatively, heading fulfilled why Sasha. So Scarlett. Do you really hate me? He sounded like he was about to cry. I've never hated you. I called just to tell you. I deliberately paused. Ethan, heaven faso why I'm your legally wedded wife with a marriage certificate. We're in love with each other. With me around, why do you still need to secretly use my intimate clothing? After saying that, before Ethan could react, I quickly hung up the phone. The more I thought about what I just said, the more explicit it seemed. It was so embarrassing. After that, Ethan called back, but I rejected every call. Finally, having fulfilled I directly turned off my phone and threw it aside. I slept until noon the next day. When I went downstairs to the kitchen to look for something to eat, the doorbell rang suddenly. I thought it was Cindy coming to see me. I opened the door with a yawn. What came into view was Ethan, looking travel-worn. pulling his suitcase with one hand. He draped his suit jacket over his arm. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up above his forearms. It was autumn now, but he was so anxious that sweat broke out on his forehead. "Ethan? Weren't you supposed to be on a business trip for a month?" The next second, the door was slammed shut. Ethan directly threw his jacket aside and advanced towards me step by step. I had nowhere to retreat and fell onto the sofa. "Ethan? What are you going to do?" I fell into his arms. Because of his eagerness, his breathing was ragged. The hot air he exhaled blew against my ear. "Scarlett, does what you said on the phone last night still count?" Last night? On the phone? I realized what he was talking about. Looking at Ethan in front of me. Was he really in such a hurry? Indeed. You can't judge a person by their appearance. My face turned red. Of course it counts. But isn't it too early now? We should at least wait until tonight, right? And we haven't bought. Before I could finish speaking, Ethan retorted, "Scarlett, you said we're in love with each other. Why do we have to wait until tonight?" Huh? Seeing me remain silent, he looked a bit disappointed. Sometimes I often think I'm normal to fit into this family. Seeing Ethan turn to leave, I quickly grabbed his wrist and pulled him back down. "I'm not rejecting you. What I'm saying is, Ethan, I really like you and I don't hate you. And no matter when you ask me this question, my answer will always be, yes. We're in love with each other." I was so excited that I became a bit incoherent. I was afraid that I couldn't express myself clearly. And I was worried that Ethan would misunderstand that it was just a whim. I directly put my arms around his neck and kissed his thin lips. The world seemed to stand still at this moment. All I could feel was the warmth between our lips and teeth. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. The man who was always calm and composed was completely flustered. Ethan interlaced his fingers with mine. "Scarlett, I love you too." After finally understanding each other's feelings, I explained the misunderstanding to Ethan. He coughed violently several times, like an innocent man who had been flirted with. Finally, he said, "Dear, wait until tonight." These 4 words made both of us blush. I leaned close to Ethan's ear and whispered something softly, then turned to leave. Before I could walk away, Ethan directly grabbed my waist and made me sit on his lap. "There's no need to buy it." His gaze fell on the computer screen, and he said seemingly inferiorly, "I've prepared it." His overly hoarse voice betrayed his true thoughts. It wasn't until I saw that drawer full of necessities that I finally realized that this man was horribly captious in a reserved way. Ethan had a transnational meeting in the evening. While munching on an apple, I pushed open the door of the study. I randomly picked a book from the bookshelf, lay down on the recliner beside it, and read while eating. Ethan's gaze kept following me. The frown on his face instantly relaxed a bit. He explained to the people on the video conference in French, "This is my wife." I didn't know what they were babbling on about at the other end. Ethan looked at me again, with a smile in his eyes and the corners of his mouth slightly curved. "Yes, at until filled wind session. We're very much in love." This meeting lasted a bit long. In the end, I fell asleep on the recliner. I woke up from my dream when I felt my body suddenly suspended in the air. Ethan had already picked me up horizontally. I naturally put my arms around his neck. "Ethan, have you finished your work?" As I spoke, his warm breath fell on the top of my head. His hoarse and magnetic voice was extremely alluring. "Yes. So now it's time for us to get down to business." Ethan placed me on the bed. He put one arm around my waist, pulling me closer to him. The firm muscles of his arm touched my body through my thin nightgown, making me unconsciously breathe more heavily. Adon smiled and teased. "So Scarlett gets shy so easily? Yet you dared to say such bold words on the phone. How dare he laugh at me?" I was unconvinced. I directly grabbed his collar and pinned him down. My kiss landed unexpectedly. Ethan was in disbelief. Ethan's eyes widened. Ethan took the initiative. When it was over, I was so tired that I couldn't even lift my fingers. In my previous life, in what kind of mental state did I search online? Is Ethan not good and bad? One can't even empathize with their former self. Ethan was satisfied. The flush on his face still hadn't faded. I was sulking and didn't want to pay attention to him. Ahon, Ethan. We'd better sleep separately in the future. It's good for my waist. No. I was wrong. I'll definitely be gentler next time. He rubbed his cheek against my palm one after another, not giving me a chance to escape. He was like a big dog begging its master for comfort. His voice was extremely hoarse. Scarlett. This time you took the initiative to choose me. It's too late to go back on your word now. I was too tired and drowsy, so I didn't hear what Ethan said next. Scarlett. I will definitely not let that fire happen. I won't allow anyone to hurt you. After I expressed my feelings to Ethan, our relationship heated up rapidly. His friends all said that Ethan now had a faint sense of being a husband. Ethan didn't refute it. He just held my hand even tighter. But I still hadn't found the opportunity to ask Ethan when exactly he fell in love with me. This matter still hadn't been resolved. I encountered an even bigger problem. Jason suddenly came back. When Cindy told me this news, she gritted her teeth. These two scumbags actually dared to come back. They made you suffer so much criticism back then. But they act as if nothing happened and are here showing off their affection. Do they really think everyone has forgotten the shitty things they did? Come on. We don't need to pay attention to such people. It's not worth getting angry for them. Yeah. Scarlett. You're right. We shouldn't get angry for such people. As long as you're happy with Ethan now. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. I didn't know what Jason came back for. Anyway, heading fulfilled my obsession. No matter what, I had to stay away from him. I was a bit late for the Ethan family's dinner party because of some urgent matters. From a distance, I saw a group of people surrounding Jason and Mia. Mia was wearing a white off-the-shoulder dress. Her slightly coiled hair revealed a deliberately designed casual and gentle look. She had been leaning on Jason's shoulder, listening to him speak, with a delicate and moving look in her eyes. I didn't want to waste any more time on them. While no one noticed me, I lowered my head and took 2 quick steps, wanting to leave the noisy crowd, but as I was leaving, I heard Jason say, "Scarlett? How could I fall in love with such a bossy and boring woman?" It was just for fun back then. When I heard my name, I stopped in my tracks. Someone asked, "Then you were still with her for 2 years and were going to marry her?" Hearing this, Mia was obviously unhappy. But she still pretended to be dignified and smiled at the person who spoke, with a warning in her eyes. It was interesting. Jason looked completely indifferent. I just wanted to see Ethan lose the one he loved little by little. Ethan? Isn't he Jason's younger brother? Everyone present knew the relationship between Ethan and Jason. They also knew that Jace and didn't treat this younger brother well. What does this have to do with him? By the way, having fulfilled my obsession, after Jason left, Ethan married Scarlett instead of Jason. Wow. I'm envious. Scarlett's face is really beautiful. Like that of a seductive fairy. If you liked her, you could have recognized Jason as your brother back then. Let him get tired of her and then give Scarlett to you. There was another burst of laughter around. I was standing on the outermost edge of the crowd, just as I was about to rush in and have a showdown with them. My gaze fell on Cindy not far away. When she had already raised her hand to slap Jason, I held her hand and softly shushed. I signaled to her with my eyes not to be impulsive. That I had my own plans. Jason sneered. In that case, Ethan would probably get angry with you. He lowered his head and took a sip of red wine. Our Scarlett is actually the first love of my dear younger brother Ethan. She's the woman he has liked for many years and held dear in his heart. Jason actually knew about Ethan's secret crush on me. Everyone seemed to have heard a major piece of gossip. No wonder he agreed to change the marriage partner so easily. It turns out that these two had something going on secretly. Secretly my ass. He was just unrequited in love. You don't know how mushy Ethan wrote in his diary. Scarlett, Scarlett. Before he could finish speaking, there was another burst of laughter around. So our seemingly serious president Ethan actually has such a side in private. So Jason chased Scarlett because of Ethan? I thought Jason had really turned over a new leaf. Otherwise, why do you think I spent so much time chasing Scarlett back then? You don't know how wonderful Ethan's expression was when he knew that Scarlett was my girlfriend. But I didn't expect Scarlett to be so difficult to deal with. I was just playing around, but she actually really wanted to marry me. Fortunately, hadn't I felt my aunt's sigh. I ran away in the end. If I had really married her, my life would have been over. Wouldn't it? Jason deliberately made an extremely exaggerated expression, causing another burst of laughter from the crowd. He added, "But I also have to thank my dear younger brother. If it weren't for his diary, how would I have known so many of Scarlett's little habits, and that her mother passed away at that time? My silly younger brother was so innocent. He even sent her anonymous text messages to encourage her every day, thinking that this would make her like him. Don't you think it's ridiculous?" I was so disgusted by these words that I felt like vomiting. I desperately grabbed Cindy's arm beside me to calm myself down. It turned out that those text messages that comforted me and pulled me out of the abyss were all sent by Ethan. Jason just happened to take advantage of this. It turned out that his approaching me was a scam from beginning to end. He had long known that Ethan had a crush on me. He deliberately got close to me just to make Ethan sad and desperate. How could there be such a disgusting person in the world? Jason continued. Sigh. In the end, it was still a bargain for that kid Ethan. You don't know. Scarlett's waist is really thin. His words stopped abruptly. I don't know when Ethan appeared. He swung his fist at Jason's face. Jason couldn't dodge in time and directly fell onto the table beside him. The wine glasses on the table spilled all over the floor. The red wine spilled onto Jason's suit, making him look extremely embarrassed. Mia fled in fear to the side. Ethan grabbed Jason's collar and pulled him up. There was anger in his eyes. Jason. What right do you have? Why did you let Scarlett down? If you have any grievances, come at me. Why did you take advantage of Scarlett? Upon hearing this, Jason looked down at the hand that was holding his collar and spat out a mouthful of bloody saliva. There was extreme disdain in his eyes. And he sneered. You can only blame yourself for being useless. You didn't even have the courage to chase the person you liked. If it weren't for me, could you have married Scarlett by taking advantage of the situation? If I hadn't gotten tired of her, how could it have been your turn to marry Scarlett? My dear younger brother. You should really thank me. Ethan couldn't bear it any longer and punched him again. Jason's half face immediately swelled up. Mia was shouting beside them. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Only then did everyone finally react and stepped forward to separate the two of them. I rushed over and grabbed Ethan's hand, checking it anxiously. Ethan, are you hurt? I'm fine. Don't worry. He gave me a reassuring smile. Mia finally stepped forward and said at this moment, Scarlett, I know you hate me. But matters of the heart have no order of precedence. Jason said he liked me a lot. So I agreed. Can't you just wish us well? I really regarded you as my only friend. The only friend? She really dirtied the word friend. In fact, many things are realized later. I didn't notice anything was wrong until after they eloped. Why was Mia, who is always introverted, willing to take the initiative to be my love advisor? Why did I always happen to meet Mia every time I went on a date with Jason? Why did Mia always analyze my problems every time I quarreled with Jason? The underlying message in her words was that I wasn't good enough for Jason. It made me really fall into self-doubt for a while. It's just that some people couldn't hide their true feelings any longer. I let go of Ethan's hand. I stepped forward and slapped Mia in the face. You should look at yourself in the mirror. How can someone like you be worthy of being my friend? Mia was caught off guard by the slap. She cried and threw herself into Jason's arms. Jason stood in front of her to protect her. Scarlett. How long are you going to keep making a scene? Mia kindly tried to persuade you. But you still hit her. As soon as he finished speaking, I slapped Jason on the other half of his face. Did I just say her and not you? You two are a perfect match. Like trash in the trash can. Mia was crying pitifully. I know it's all my fault. Will you forgive me only if I die? Scarlett. Looking at this despicable couple who were almost fully immersed in their act, Cindy couldn't stand it either and stepped forward. What are you pretending for? Mia. If it weren't for Scarlett's family sponsoring your studies, you might still be in some corner of the mountains. You used Scarlett's family's money to stab Scarlett in the back and steal Scarlett's V-Ink. You really have a good plan. How could there be such a shameless person like you in the world? Upon hearing this, there were whispers and discussions all around. Mia had always used her identity as my best friend to create the image of a wealthy young lady. She lied that her family members were all doing business abroad. Now that the truth was revealed, she was completely panicked. She didn't care about her gentle persona anymore and started shouting at Cindy. No. She's lying. She's talking nonsense. She's slandering me. I stood beside Cindy and took out my phone. Is she talking nonsense? Why don't we just call this person named Guoi and let him tell us what his relationship with you really is? No. Don't. Mia rushed forward in a panic to snatch my phone. I stumbled back a few steps and almost fell. Fortunately, Ethan caught me. The scene became chaotic again for a while. What's all the commotion about? A majestic voice came from behind the crowd. When everyone saw who it was, they all made way. It was Jason's father. He was also the host of this banquet. He calmly swept a glance around. From the chaotic chatter of the people around, he also got a general idea of what had happened. But I didn't expect that he would slap Ethan in the face. Shameless. You actually helped an outsider bully your own brother. How could our Ethan family raise such an ill-mannered person like you? Ethan turned his head to one side. He remained silent. He was already used to his parents' partiality. I rushed over and stood in front of him. It was Jason who was rude first. All these people here can testify. Everyone knows clearly who is really ill-mannered. Jason's father's authority was questioned. He became even more furious. Very well. Ethan. Look. This is the good wife you married. You're all disrespectful to your elders and have no manners at all. You've completely shamed our Ethan family. Ethan could endure the grievances himself. But he would never allow me to be slandered. Did the Ethan family raise me? You should ask yourselves. Have you ever put in any effort for my growth? It's not your place to comment on whether my wife and I have good manners or not. Do you still respect me as your father? You've really gone too far. Coincidentally, I came to this banquet today just to sever the relationship. From now on, I have nothing to do with the Ethan family. Jason's father was so angry that he stamped his feet. But in the end, he still signed the consent form to sever the relationship. Ethan gave them a large amount of compensation. Ethan put away the consent form. And finally, a look of relief appeared in his eyes. It was as if the stone that had been pressing on his heart for many years had finally been lifted. He took my hand and strode out of the banquet hall. The commotion behind us was no longer our concern. Ethan and I could finally tell each other the story of how we first met. I was 15 years old when I first saw you. That was the first time he set foot in this city. There were tall buildings everywhere. But it only made him feel desolate. Clearly, what his grandmother had said to him before she passed away was, "After I'm gone, you go back to the Ethan family. They are your family. And they won't treat you badly." But on the first day he returned to the Ethan family, they only prepared food for 3 people. In the first week after he returned to the Ethan family, he was called a freak to his face by Jason. In the first month after he returned to the Ethan family, he was still sleeping in the bedroom that was temporarily converted from Jason's piano room. The young him gradually realized that he wasn't loved. Later, he transferred to our high school. On the first day of school, he was stopped at the gate because Jason had secretly taken his admission notice. There were many people coming and going, eyeing his rather inexpensive clothes and whispering among themselves. Our high school was an international school, and the students who got in were either rich or from noble families. Ethan stood there. His young heart was sensitive and fragile, and his head lowered more and more. I happened to pass by at that time. After finding out the reason, I offered to go to the principal's office to print another admission notice for him. And I comforted him not to be too nervous, saying that the teachers and classmates here were all very nice. Later, he learned that my name was Scarlett. For many years after that, he secretly followed in my footsteps. But he didn't dare to let me know. The young man was sensitive and felt inferior, and he hid his feelings deeper and deeper. Ethan took out that jade bracelet from the safe and helped me put it on. Before my grandmother passed away, she gave me this bracelet. She said it was for the person I loved. I thought I would never be able to give it away in my life. It fits perfectly. It's as if it was tailor-made for me. Ethan was amused by my little expression. A tear blurred his vision. Scarlett. I've been alone and helpless for so many years. Fortunately, having fulfilled with your presence, I don't feel so uneasy. Please never leave me. Okay? Okay. Now that things had come to this, I didn't hide it anymore and told him about the thing in my previous life. I didn't expect that he accepted the absurd idea of past and present lives quite well. I know. In that dream, I dreamed of my own death. He paused. He held my hand a little tighter, as if he was afraid that I would run away. And yours too. 2 months after Ethan's death, there was a without rhyme or reason fire in the house. I wanted to escape, but I found that the bedroom door was locked from the outside, and even the window couldn't be opened. Obviously, hiding myself, someone was trying to murder me. A name flashed through my mind quickly. Jason? I remembered that he had a big argument with me before, wanting to fight for Ethan's inheritance. Ethan shook his head and then nodded. It's not just Jason. It's the people from the Ethan family. So that car accident of yours? Yeah, Halisai. They were the ones who did it. The Ethan family's business has been getting worse and worse in recent years. And they wanted to use the blood of Hyun Company to support the Jason family. So they planned that car accident. But they didn't expect that I had already made a will long ago, leaving all my inheritance to you. So they extended their claws towards me. A chill ran down my back. How could there be such a shameless family in the world? Ethan's voice was cold. Since that's the case, let them pay the price they deserve. Afon and I weren't wrong in our guess. In this life, all the stories happened earlier. First, Jason, who was supposed to appear only after Ethan's death, came back early. Then Ethan found that the brakes of his car were a bit out of order. Obviously, someone had tampered with it. They can't wait that quickly. And let's play along with them in this drama. Ethan said and leaned close to my ear. He told me his plan. How can that be? What if you really have an accident? It's not allowed. Don't worry. In order to grow old with Scarlett, I won't let myself get hurt. A week later, the news that Ethan, the boss of Hyun Company, died in a car accident spread throughout the circle. At the funeral, Jason's father and Jason's mother, who had already severed the relationship with Ethan, insisted on coming and almost fainted from crying. After the funeral, they finally revealed their true colors. Scarlett, we've thought about the issue of Ethan's inheritance. The house where you and Ethan are living now will be left to you. The Ethan family will never leave you homeless. You're overly grief-stricken. And the most important thing is to take care of your own body. The company can be handed over to Ethan's elder brother to manage for now. They really had a good plan. Just like in my previous life, I asked my private lawyer to announce the inheritance will in public. When they heard the content of the inheritance will, Jason, let out a low sigh, who had been silent beside us, became furious. Scarlett, you just want to embezzle my brother's inheritance, don't you? Who knows if this inheritance will is forged? I think I need to remind you. I'm Ethan's legal wife. And I'm originally the first in line to inherit Ethan's estate. And for some people, if I remember correctly, Ethan has already severed the relationship with you. Do strangers have the right to compete for the inheritance? Scarlett. Jason didn't continue to refute. He supported Jason's father and Jason's mother and left. But he gave me a meaningful look before leaving. I knew what he was going to do. 2 months after Ethan's death, when I woke up, I smelled the smoke outside. The good show was about to begin. Aunt, who should have been cleaning the house, didn't respond at this time. The bedroom door and window couldn't be opened as usual, but I wasn't panicked at all. Soon, let out a low sigh. The bedroom door was kicked open from the outside. It was a prearranged scene. But Ethan's hands were still shaking. Scarlett, are you okay? I directly threw myself into his arms and shook my head. I'm fine. The fire had already started to spread. Ethan carried me out of the villa first. Not long after, Jason came running over with a group of people. He forced out to tears. Disasters never come alone. My poor sister-in-law just left with my brother like this. I didn't take good care of her. I'll feel ashamed to face my brother in the underworld in the future." His voice stopped abruptly. The commotion in the crowd also stopped. Everyone was shocked to see Ethan, who had already been buried, standing in front of them. They stepped back in fear. Ethan made a gesture to Leo behind him. Leo brought out Aunt, who had disappeared, and she was being held down. Aunt confessed that she had taken Jason's money and deliberately set the fire with the intention of hurting me. Jason originally wanted everyone to witness my death. But unexpectedly, it was them who witnessed this earth-shattering secret. He slumped down on the ground. Finally, hadn't a sigh. He realized what had happened. "Ethan, you actually dared to fake your death to deceive me. The police will be here soon. You'd better save your breath and argue with them." During the 2 months when Ethan faked his death and disappeared, he had been collecting evidence of Jason's crimes in secret. With irrefutable evidence, Jason was sentenced to death for the crime of intentional homicide. Jason's father and Jason's mother turned white-haired overnight. The Ethan family completely collapsed. At that moment, I was watching the sunset by the seaside with Ethan. "We'll complete those little things written in your diary one by one in the future." "Okay. But the most important thing has already been done." I looked at him. He was just looking towards the horizon. And his eyes were especially bright. "The most important thing is that you're always by my side." The sound of the wind fell together with my kiss. "For me, the most important thing is that we didn't miss each other again. Blake is the top-tier celebrity I brought out single and ashen from the orphanage. But after winning an award, he threw me, half-naked, off the top floor of the building. Before I died, with red eyes, I asked him why. Blake coldly stepped on my face and ground it. And then I knew he hated me to the bone. "You only had interests in your eyes. You forced me to earn money, it made me lose the love of my life forever. If you hadn't stopped me from keeping her by my side 5 years ago, she wouldn't have had a depressive episode and jumped off the building." When I opened my eyes, I was back to the day when he secretly brought the extreme Fan Ivy into the dormitory during the talent show. Looking at the eager two, I turned around and switched on the hidden camera in the room. "This time, as you wish. I'll make you an orphan again. It hurts." The excruciating pain of my bones breaking all over my body was very clear. I was thrown off the top floor by Blake. I was naked and covered with marks. His blood-red eyes seemed to be still in front of me, scarlet. Driven by insatiable desires, coerced a table of men to indulge wildly and then fell off the top floor after getting over-enthusiastic. "How about it? It suits the persona of you, the tough-as-nails agent in the entertainment industry. Quite well." Before I died, only an unexpected purse and desperately rushed to my side. With red eyes, covering my bleeding body. When I opened my eyes, Blake's enlarged face suddenly appeared. I screamed and pushed him away violently. The person in front of me frowned in dissatisfaction. "Scarlett, I just want to let Ivy come and stay for a few days." "What's wrong with you?" "What?" I looked around hesitantly. "This is the recording backstage of I'm a Supernova. I was reborn. This show is the hottest talent show at the moment. Starting from 99 contestants. They were gradually eliminated. And now there are 10 contestants left competing for the final 3 debut spots. With my marketing support, Blake's popularity is far ahead." I looked at Blake in front of me infuriately. He was tall with long legs. His eyes and eyebrows were cold, and his tightly pursed lips revealed his current unhappiness. He was almost a different person from when he first came. Blake was abandoned and in the orphanage. When I went to do volunteer work, Blake, standing in the corner, nervously glanced at me while I was distributing snacks to other children. I squatted down with a smile, and he subconsciously blocked with his hand. It was not until he saw the scarf in my hand that he came to his senses. The next time I saw him was 3 months ago. I worked overtime until late at night. On my way home, I was attacked. Blake suddenly appeared. During the scuffle, he was scratched and bleeding continuously. Only then did I notice his face. It was the most popular strong-featured lip these days. When I extended an olive branch, his eyes flickered, and he lowered his head, saying that he was eliminated in the first round. Inferiority is indeed the best plastic surgery for men. His timid appearance made me find a new packaged persona. The handsome and unaware fool beauty became popular in the talent show. In just 3 months, Blake had changed from not even daring to raise his head in front of me to his current unruly and arrogant look. I can't sleep at night. I must have Ivy by my side. He pulled out a pitiful-looking girl from behind. She was wearing the most expensive high-end custom-made short skirt in my wardrobe. As I was about to step forward, Blake hugged her in his arms and stared at me with hostility. You're overthinking. Now the 10 contestants all live in single rooms. I won't interfere with who's in your bed. Even if this is an extreme, then who put a camera in your letter? Sneaked in to steal your underwear? Collected your cigarette, butts with saliva? And slept under your bed? As if guessing what I was thinking, Blake explained anxiously. Ivy didn't do it on purpose. She has depression, that's why she did these things. He added weakly, she did this because she loves me so much. I smiled and looked at Ivy. She had an ordinary appearance, but her gentle and delicate temperament made up for it. Her eyes were full of love for Blake. In my past life, I opposed him hiding Ivy in the dormitory. I just euphemistically said that it was a critical period of the talent show. If Ivy's matter was exposed, it would be bad for his debut. If he really liked her, he could fall in love after achieving fame and success. Neither the company or I would stop him. But when Ivy heard this, she looked at me with red eyes. And tears kept falling. You just look down on me. Although I'm poor and have a bad background, I have a heart that loves Blake. No one loves him more than I do. After saying that, she ran out crying, afraid that something might happen. I quickly chased after her, not noticing the gloomy look on Blake's face behind me. On the rooftop, hiding in the dark, I secretly heard her talking on the phone with someone on the other end. Brother, help me. If I can't win Blake's heart now, he won't be with me anymore when he debuts and becomes famous. If I fake my death once, he'll realize that he can't lose me. Only after losing someone will a man know how to cherish. There were a lot of other rambling words that I couldn't quite understand. I really didn't understand her mental state. Why did Blake's attitude suddenly do a 180-degree turn? Not only did he stop hating her, but he also became inseparable from her. Deeply in love? During Blake's preparation for the next round of the competition, Ivy indeed reported the news of her suicide. I told Blake everything I heard last time, but he still insisted on leaving the competition and rushing over. I could only stay and handle the aftermath. But to my surprise, Ivy really died. On the 38th floor rooftop. She jumped off, dying in front of Blake like a withered flower. I repeatedly asked about the changes that happened in between, but Blake just said wouldn't lie that her mind was made up and there was no need to care anymore. Later, he worked extremely hard in the show, passed through rounds of challenges. On the night of the final, he even shed tears on the spot, thanking his fans for their love. Countless fans were moved by him. In those years, his popularity in the entertainment industry soared, until he became one of the top-tier celebrities. Then, let out a low sigh. He told me in a flat tone to attend a cooperation dinner on his behalf. The moment I walked into the private room, I felt that the atmosphere was wrong. There were several familiar Canto-like figures in the industry, who took pleasure in playing with and torturing young artists. And each had several lives on their hands. I instinctively wanted to escape, but I found that the door was locked from the outside, and I could only be forced into the corner. It was as if a venomous snake was hissing in my ear. Agent Liu. No wonder you're said to be the most beautiful agent in the entertainment industry. With this appearance and figure, you're no less than a celebrity. Your top-tier artist specially sent you here and told us to have fun. When I was on the verge of death, the door opened. It was Blake. I grabbed him like a life-saving straw, begging him to save me. The cold-faced man bent down to look at me, then sneered. His pointed-heeled leather shoes ground hard on my face. Save you? Then who will save my Ivy? When Ivy jumped off the top floor 5 years ago, no one saved her either. Then I knew he hated me to the bone. If you hadn't deliberately provoked her, we could have been together happily. With my strength at that time, even if it was made public, it would have been easy for me to get to where I am today. He violently punched and kicked me. and pain spread all over my body. Go to hell, bitch. The remaining pain in my body made me tremble uncontrollably. So this time, I smiled and took Ivy's hand. This dress doesn't quite fit you. Ask Blake to buy you some new ones. Then I put her hand into Blake's palm. Why would I disagree? You two are really well matched. A perfect couple. You two deserve to die together. Ivy looked at me in bewilderment. And even Blake opened his mouth in surprise. My tough methods are well known in the company. A sudden change in my nature might not be believable. I pretended to be stern. But don't delay the important things. After all, the company will hype your CP later. This sentence was for Ivy. Sure enough. She trembled and subconsciously tightened her grip on Blake's hand. I smiled subtly. If I don't take drastic measures, wouldn't the hidden camera I secretly placed just now be in vain? The hidden camera was a gimmick before the start of the next stage of the competition. The main purpose was to highlight the contestants' personal characteristics for the audience to vote. For the show's effect, only the agents were informed about this. In most cases, agents would remind their artists to pay attention to their words and deeds in a roundabout way. But looking at the two people tightly snuggling together, I could only silently apologize to the audience in my heart. Those who need to wash their eyes can come to me to settle the bill. Just as I came out of the bathroom, Nora blocked my way. Scarlett. You're so lucky. Not only are you favored by the boss but you also signed an artist like Blake. I looked at her resentful face and smiled slightly. Didn't you eliminate Blake in the first round interview? She gritted her teeth in anger, but didn't dare to really do anything because of my status. I raised my chin and pushed her aside distaphonially. Excuse me. I deliberately slowed down my steps. 5 minutes later, the sound of Nora's proud high-heeled shoes sounded behind me. Seeing the contemptuous glance she gave me before leaving, I knew it was done. When I came to Blake's dormitory, I almost thought I was dizzy and walked back to my own home. The living room was filled with my clothes and bags from the closet. I raised my eyebrows and looked at Ivy, who was proudly trying on jewelry. Where was there any trace of her being depressed and pitiful? Turning her head and seeing me, she weakly stepped back several steps. Scarlett. Scarlett. Blake felt sorry that I had never worn such nice things, so he had them moved here. He felt sorry for you and moved my things? When I first signed him, I gave him the key to this house for temporary accommodation and had forgotten to take it back. When Blake came out of the shower, what he saw was the scene of me pulling the necklace off Ivy's neck, and her falling to the ground crying. Blake, what out a lull sigh. It's all my fault. Scarlett just said a few words to me, and I fell down accidentally. Blake instantly flew into a rage, pushed me away, and helped Ivy up from the ground. Scarlett. Why have you become so mean? It's just a few clothes and jewelry. Ivy doesn't have everything from a young age like you. You really disappoint me. His eyes were filled with deep disgust. I provided him with food and shelter, and helped him start his career. What exactly did I do to let him down? Ivy is ruined now, and can only hide in this small place with me. These things can make her happy. Why can't you be more generous? You probably just pretended to care when you went to the orphanage before. I can't believe I actually believed you. Huh. He forcefully snatched the necklace from my hand. During the struggle, the necklace was accidentally broken, and the beads scattered all over the ground. The sadness in my eyes made him unconsciously take a step back, but after seeing Ivy's tears, he straightened his back again. It's just a matter of spending some money. I'll pay you back 10 or even 100 times when I debut. Ivy is right. Scarlett. Your hypocrisy is disgusting. I squatted down and searched for the beads for a long time. This was a relic left by my mother. Only after finding the last bead did I suppress the hatred in my eyes and calmly tell the bodyguard outside the door, wrap all these things up for me and send them to the nearest welfare home. Upon hearing this, Ivy became even more aggrieved. Do you take me for a beggar? I smiled. Not really. Beggars are still human, but you two are worse than pigs and dogs. Blake was so angry, and his eyes were full of fury. Scarlett. Don't you want your job anymore? I'm the most outstanding artist under your management. I'll become a big star soon. You'd better think twice about your attitude when talking to Ivy. I shook my head. Sin you wouldn't be. Get ready for the next round. With your stiff limbs. Voice like it's filled with cement. And being bad at singing. Dancing. And acting. To borrow a sentence from his anti-fans. Apart from his face. Blake is like the mainstay of a joke. A big client in Gotham City. And the largest number in a deck of cards. A day later. Nora asked me to meet at a secluded restaurant. Scarlett. You're really playing dirty. Nora sneered at me and rolled her eyes. Gone was my previous arrogance. I asked her in a trembling voice what she wanted from me. She threw a stack of printed photos in my face. I flipped through them in a fluster. With each photo I saw, my face grew paler. They were all private photos of Blake taken when he wasn't paying attention. As well as blurry group photos of him with many women. Flipping further back, there were even photos of various other artists. My spare phone. It was you who picked it up. Indeed. You're such a fool. You thought setting a password could stop people? I forced myself to calm down. What do you want? Nora didn't hesitate. Transfer Blake's management contract to me. Otherwise, your disgusting true face will be made public. She had already prepared the documents. It seemed that she was just waiting for me to call the boss to change the manager. With tears in my eyes, I signed in stubbornness and humiliation. One day, I still have things to hand over to Blake. Everyone in the company knew that Blake was an artist I picked up from the street, so it was reasonable for me to need to explain more things. She nodded, not really caring about such details. I carefully looked through the 2 unpopular male artists she gave me in exchange. The moment I saw the photos, I was shocked. It was him? The next evening, the hidden camera segment officially started. The program group created a lot of hype, only writing about the charming aspects of the contestants that you didn't know. And after the recording started, the contestants had to hand in their phones. The audience had been waiting in the live streaming room early. The first to appear was the footage of Noah, the second-ranked contestant. The handsome man fresh out of the bath was only wearing a towel around his lower body. The undried water droplets slowly slid down the grooves of his ABS into an unseen place. The bullet comments went crazy. Brother. Take me with you. Brother. A classical body with a baby face. The contrast is off the charts. Leushu. Hello. Brother. The water droplets are bad. I'll lick them off for you. Brother. When the live streaming footage of Blake appeared, although only a small corner was shown, the bullet comments also had a small climax. He had already taken a bath, and his vest was loosely hanging on his body. He casually leaned on the sofa and let out a comfortable sigh. Wait a minute. What's my husband doing? This voice is so strange. I'm too scared to say. Someone else downstairs say it. If you all are too scared to say, and I'm too scared to say either. Teacher. Why isn't my camera in the center? God. My baby has sensitive skin. Mom can't see clearly if it's not in the center. Don't worry. I chose an angle that could maximize the avoidance of the face of the other protagonist. Then everyone heard the usually cold and insensitive Blake roughly asking Ivy to serve him well. 2 naked bodies appeared on the screen. The bullet comments exploded. Am I seeing things? Is this allowed to be shown? Blake is so skinny. No wonder he looks like a chick on stage. Where are the security guards? Where are the security guards? Supernova is in big trouble. I've recorded the whole thing. The director quickly switched the camera. But perhaps due to being too shocked, it took several attempts to switch away, getting stuck on the most eye-catching scene. I silently put on my blindfold. When the director angrily knocked on Blake's door, the 2 of them were lying on the sofa, gasping for breath, exhausted. It had only been a few minutes. Blake looked at the angry group of people. Very annoyed. He grabbed the quilt beside him and coldly said, "Get out. Get out of here. It's you who should get out." Since his popularity had far outstripped others, no one had dared to talk to him like this. Where's my manager? She said she got something in her eye and went to the hospital for emergency treatment. Blake was silent for a long time. After getting dressed, he said, "So what if I brought someone in? Isn't your program relying on me to make money? Is this really a big deal?" The staff members looked at each other. All silent. Someone handed him a phone. This kind of thing can't reach the top of the hot search list. but with a casual search. There are already pictures and videos being removed everywhere. The more Blake looked, the darker his face became. He smashed the phone with his backhand. Who did this? I'm asking, who the hell did this? The director rolled his eyes. Hidden cameras. A regular routine in variety shows. Your manager should have warned you to watch your words and actions. Blake covered his throbbing head and recalled that I had indeed implicitly told him to keep Ivy out of the bedroom these days, considering that the cameras were only placed in the living room. But at that time, he was so angry that he thought I was looking down on Ivy. What should we do now? Someone asked weakly. Find someone. Sue the hacker. Claim that someone used AI to generate his face and maliciously spread it. Well, it's no wonder that he is the director of a popular program group. The emergency plan was very well done. The situation seemed to have calmed down. But Blake's online voting had plummeted to 8th place. And then he found that he couldn't get in touch with me. At the same time, Nora was also extremely angry. Bitch! How dare you play me? At this time, I was meeting the two artists Nora had left at the company's coffee shop. Scarlett. Hello. Scarlett. Both of them were good-looking. Ashton was suitable for the persona of a gentle gentleman. And Jasper had a youthful face. But the emotions in his eyes were intense. He would surely be fascinating playing a Wyander. From today on, I'll be your manager. The two of them looked at each other, somewhat disbelieving. Why? Don't you always only manage top-notch artists? Scarlett? Is it possible that those people were all made famous by me from obscurity? If I have to say why. Nora sold you to me. Also, after I take over. Your first job is to participate in the challenge competition of I'm a Supernova. The next day, I brought Ashton and Jasper to the backstage of the program recording. As soon as I stepped in, I saw Blake with a gloomy face. There were dark circles under his eyes. And there were a few pimples just emerging on his chin. He looked unshaven, as if he hadn't slept all night. My wrist was suddenly grabbed. And the force was so strong that I frowned slightly. Scarlett. Where the hell have you been? Do you know how many calls I made to you last night? He raised the missed call interface on his phone with red eyes. You knew the program group had hidden cameras. Why didn't you remind me? I'm the most profitable artist under your management. Without me, do you think you can be better off? I forcefully bent his fingers upwards, wishing I could crush them. On the surface, I was very calm. That's really unfortunate. I smiled and handed him a document. This is the contract signed a few days ago. You're now Nora's artist. Ignoring his dark face, I took the two new artists to hand over to the director. Due to Blake's incident, the program's popularity had dropped a lot. They were eagerly looking forward to new faces to shift the focus of the hot search. Scarlett. How dare you? An incredulous voice came from behind. Gritted through clenched teeth. Blake strode towards me. Before I could react, I was firmly blocked behind by Jasper's sturdy body. Blake's attempt to forcefully grab my hand was stopped mid-air. Who the hell are you? Get lost. Blake had received preferential treatment in the company and had always been arrogant, looking down on the less popular artists in the same company. Well, I'm indeed nothing special. I'm just an artist of Sister Scarlett. That's all. This was the first time Jasper had spoken so provocatively. Then he secretly turned his head to observe my reaction tentatively. Only when he saw me smiling at him did he feel relieved. Scarlett. Did you deliberately choose him to piss me off? Blake raised his eyebrows, looking full of complacency. I know you've always been unhappy about me and Ivy. First, you sent away all the clothes and bags, but still weren't satisfied. Now you pretend to give my contract to Nora and even find someone on purpose to catch my attention? I couldn't figure out how he came to this set of conclusions. Well, your little trick actually worked a bit. He frowned on his own, raising his sharp jawline. I can do as you wish. As long as you help me solve the current trouble. What did I wish for? I voiced the doubt in my heart, and Blake was very impatient, saying in a bad-tempered manner, That's enough. Don't push your luck. I know you like me. That's why you're always jealous of Ivy and make all these troubles. As long as you fulfill your duties as an agent, I can also let you stay by my side quietly. Suddenly, In my mind, I remembered that before I died in my previous life, Blake had also looked at me like this, mumbling, "It's all your fault for being insatiable. I gave you the chance to be by my side, yet you still dreamed of taking Ivy's place." At that time, I was shocked and terrified, and I didn't think carefully about this sentence. At this moment, I could hardly hold back my laughter. Did Blake always think that I liked him? That I stopped him from being with Ivy because I was jealous of Ivy? Blake, a din falselblind session. You said you hit your head when you were 5. Did that hit turn your brain into tofu pudding? You, and them. I pointed at Ashton and Jasper in front of me. You're all just my products. As an agent, I need to package and market the products. Where on earth did I give you such an illusion? Blake was so angry at my words that he laughed, thinking I was being stubborn. If you didn't like me, would you take me to your home? Would you eagerly apply medicine to me, feed me, hello no sai, and clothe me? I was in a state of absurd shock and didn't notice the suddenly desolate look on Jasper's face in front of me. You even banged the table with the chairman to get me a spot in the talent show. Good heavens. I took him home because I happened to have a house nearby. At that time, he got injured while saving me. Seeing such a potential talent, I got the idea to take him back on a whim. Preparing for signing him. Banging the table with the chairman was because the chairman is my dad. For the convenience of work. Few people in the company know about this. We often bang the table at home, competing to make it louder. Well, I admit, you were somewhat good-looking at first. Only at the beginning when he was humble and timid. Once a man becomes overconfident, he's not far from going bad. But these things are the same as rescuing a homeless person on the street. The homeless person would at least be grateful. But you, Blake, wada hello sai, just make me feel disgusted. Blake's brows furrowed so tightly that a fly could be pinched to death. Ivy was right. You're indeed a cheap slut. Anyone can be a tool for you to use. You think I'll bow my head and beg you like this? Huh. Just wait to get slapped in the face. Jasper looked at his indignant leaving figure and was a bit worried. Scarlett. Will he do something to hurt you in desperation? I shook my head. He doesn't have the ability to do that now. Blake is a very patient person. In the previous life, he could act as if nothing had happened in front of me for 5 years after seeing Ivy die. He used the influence I brought him to betray the company in business cooperation, which led to my family's bankruptcy. That's why I agreed to attend the dinner he mentioned in exchange for resources. In the end, I ended up humiliated, regretful, and dead. The addition of the 2 new artists revitalized Emma Supernova again. To my surprise, Jasper's popularity soared all the way. A supporting role as a Y-ender villain he had played before was also widely discussed by netizens. Just then, what a well sigh. A hot search Scarlett. Blake's former agent. Molests artist exploded. The pictures in it were all fragmented. And only the audio of Blake crying and accusing at night was at the top. I've been an orphan since I was a child. Scarlett tricked me into signing an unequal contract, often harassed me in the middle of the night, and forced me to do all kinds of unspeakable things. Because I sought Nora's help, Scarlett was furious when she found out, so she hired a hacker to create those pornographic rumors with AI. Ivy is just my good friend. But Scarlett included her because of jealousy. Because of this, Ivy has suffered from severe depression and has attempted suicide twice. In an instant, public sentiment boiled over. Even Blake's fans who had unfollowed him before came to insult me. Threw feces downstairs of the company. And demanded that I get out of the entertainment industry. My Weibo was filled with all kinds of slut shaming. I was ordered by the program team to withdraw from the recording and stop all work. When Blake came to see me with Ivy on his arm, there was pride in every corner of his eyes and brows. Scarlett, you didn't expect this, did you? I've long said that I'd make you eat your words. Where you can kneel down now and kowtow to me and Ivy to apologize. I might reluctantly consider saying a few good words for you. My silent and downcast appearance was the best stimulant in the eyes of the 2 of them. Scarlett, you humiliated me so much just because I wanted 2 of your clothes. Now it's your turn to taste this feeling. Ivy, now in the position of the biggest victim, was staying by his side openly, looking extremely complacent. I drove them out and refused visitors for half a month. The show had reached the final. After Blake's actions, he gained a large number of pity fans and diehard fans, and was voted back to the first place. He was wearing a custom-made suit, his eyes full of ambition, waiting for his moment of glory on the stage, but he didn't know that on the big screen behind him, the video of his disgraceful deeds was playing. The intimate videos of him and Ivy. The boys' recordings of their plot to frame me. And his various judgments on the appearance of fans. Calling them tanks and sows. And despising the shabby gifts they gave. It was a complete reversal. The live broadcast fell into chaos. Blake shouted at the top of his lungs for the staff to turn off the video, but was held down by Nora. She mouthed to Blake, "You're done." Blake was knocked unconscious by a disc thrown from the audience. The director tugged at his nearly bald head, resignedly stepped forward, and regained control of the situation. After waking up with a throbbing head, Blake learned that he had been removed from the finals list. Before being dragged out by the security guards, he stared intently at the first place throne. "Impossible, Scarlett. You've ruined me. I was about to debut as the first place winner. I was about to become a top-tier star." He was pinned to the ground like a dog, shouting hoarsely with red eyes. I immediately realized that he had been reborn too. Looking at his figure, I curled my lips. The Blake who knew nothing was at most of low moral character. But the one in front of me was the Blake who had stood at the top of the entertainment industry, and caused me to suffer humiliation until my death. Great. Only in this way do you truly deserve to die. Unfortunately, heading fulfilledly. You have nothing now. Oh, no. He still had Ivy. This time, without my interference, he could finally be with Ivy as he wished. I just wondered if Ivy would still be madly in love with this man who was useless without his star halo. Blake got up from the ground, his face bruised and swollen, and stared at me and Nora viciously. "It doesn't matter. Even without this show, Blake, can still reach the peak again." He grabbed Ivy's hand, proud as a peacock, and left with his head held high. Nora walked over and patted me on the shoulder. "Thank you for helping me get revenge." I smiled. I was also helping myself. Blake became an orphan at the age of 8. His mother committed suicide because she couldn't endure years of domestic violence. After that, his father raped a single mother who was on her way home from night shift when he was drunk. This woman was Nora's mother. Before my mother died, she was tightly holding on to my tuition fees. Just because of those 3,000 yuan. She was beaten to death by that beast. I couldn't just watch his son become a famous and wealthy big star. So I found her and asked Nora to act out a play with me to gain the trust of the always suspicious Blake. Only by falling from the highest place could she vent her anger and go abroad to study for a postgraduate degree without any worries. I was different. I wanted Blake to live a life worse than death. After the farce, Jasper and Asht debuted as the first place and third place winners respectively. And I turned myself back into my new work. With the addition of the controversial popularity, the show became even more popular. I was so busy that I didn't even have time to rest, and was flooded with various role offers and business cooperation resources. As for Blake, in his previous life, standing at the top of the entertainment industry and being used to the flattery of those around him, he thought that everything was within easy reach. When Jasper was discussing a role with a well-known producer, Blake showed up. He had tittied himself up, but the arrogance in his eyes was gone. I'd heard that during this period, he had contacted many directors and music producers from his previous life, and without exception, he was kicked out. And this producer in front of us was the one who had visited him 3 times in his previous life, asking him to take on a role. When Blake was stopped by the security guard at the door, he said in a very annoyed tone, "Even your boss has to come and beg me in person. How dare you? A low-class doorman. Stop me?" The producer slapped the table hard. "Who do I think it is? Making such a big fuss?" It turns out to be the infamous 3-second man. After Blake's downfall, the fans who turned against him edited those several videos into hilarious parodies that circulated on cloud storage. Blake also got the nickname 3-second man. Sure enough, men know best how to irritate other men. Blake's face turned livid. The drama you're preparing now will only be a huge hit if I play the lead. Ivy, following behind him, looked at the producer with hopeful eyes. But I still noticed the flash of disgust in her eyes. During this period, she had endured a lot of cold looks following Blake. How long could this love last? Whether it'll be a hit or not is another matter. I don't want my male lead to be associated with a man who can't last long. Blake's self-esteem wouldn't allow him to entangle any longer. He grabbed Ivy's hand and turned to leave. Then, let out a low sigh. We met him again at the doorstep of a music producer. This time, Blake got smarter and hummed a few of the songs that were very popular in his previous life to the producer. But he didn't expect the other person to fly into a rage. The producer angrily accused him of plagiarizing his unpublished new songs and threatened to sue him for infringement. Blake stood outside the door, his face a mix of red and blue, full of resentment. He didn't understand that in his previous life, the reason he had such smooth sailing and got all the resources easily wasn't because he was outstanding, but because of the capital behind him, which was me supporting him. A little popularity can be achieved through promotion, but great popularity depends on fate. A person with no connections and a bad reputation can't survive in the world of fame and fortune. Blake noticed me, his eyes full of confusion and even a bit of grievance. The lease on the house he rented had expired, and the clothes he bought to show off were too expensive. These days, he had even spent all of Ivy's money, except for the years in the orphanage. He hadn't been this embarrassed in a long time. Before, Blake was used to having me handle all kinds of things, big and small. I couldn't help but thank myself for choosing to support a useless person. What? Aren't you happy with the life you chose? I sized up Ivy's figure. It seemed that she was pregnant. Aren't you happy being with the love of your life? Blake silently lit a cigarette. And he pulled Ivy and left in a hurry. Before they reached the corner, Ivy shook off Blake's hand. Not long ago, I found out that the reason Blake's attitude towards Ivy had a 180-degree turn was that he had found Ivy's strawberry-shaped hairpin. When he was a child, when he still had his parents, he gave this as a birthday gift to the little girl next door, his childhood sweetheart. Ridiculous. It was a buy one get one free item from a 2-in-1 accessory store. Before long, I heard that Ivy had an abortion. She had taken a fancy to another young star and pushed Blake away in disgust as he tried to hold her back. You don't really think I love you so much that I'd rather die, do you? Ivy looked at the clown in front of her mockingly. I said I was going to jump off the building because my brother does high-altitude work and could help me gain your trust. I suddenly remembered a piece of news I saw in my previous life. It said that the rope knot of a high-altitude worker broke, causing his sister, who was working with him, to fall to her death. You media really know how to beautify the truth. You're really useless. You're being blocked everywhere. Living off me. And even got your phone stolen when you were doing a part-time job. Ivy spat at him. Oh right. This child isn't yours either. Ivy took a puff of cigarette. I saw your diary and deliberately bought the strawberry-shaped hairpin. Blake was so angry that he started punching and kicking Ivy. Bitch. How dare you lie to me? Bitch. I called the police for Ivy. Blake was detained for a while. Lying in the hospital bed, Ivy sneered. You don't think I'll thank you for this, do you? She had multiple fractures all over her body, including her face, and her kidney was ruptured. She would probably be bedridden for the rest of her life. When her brother, who she depended on, heard about it, he left without hesitation. You think too much. I'm just repaying you for what you did to help me. After saying that, I left without looking back. After finishing the most urgent announcements for Jasper and Ashton, it was already late autumn. At the entrance of the community, I saw a flickering scarlet dot from afar. Blake had been smoking a pack of cigarettes here. When I got closer, I found that he looked haggard, had lost a lot of weight. His hair covered his eyes, and his stubble had turned into a full beard. I stepped back 2 steps in delight. Scarlet. I regret it. He tried to grab my arm but I dodged quickly. I didn't expect Ivy to be such a person. I was deceived by her. I thought she was my childhood playmate. So I interrupted him coldly. So what? So I caused my family to go bankrupt? So I sent you to those resource exchange dinners? So I let you be thrown off the top floor naked after being humiliated? I couldn't rest in peace. He anxiously grabbed my hand. No. Scarlett. I didn't mean it. It's only now that I realize who really treats me well. You've always liked me. Right? Now I finally realize that you're the one most suitable to be with me. The autumn wind was bleak, making me feel a bit nauseous. All the wine I had just drunk came up, and I vomited all over Blake. Sorry. What you just said was so disgusting that I couldn't hold it in. Blake's face looked terrible, turning green and white as he paced back and forth for a couple of times, before barely suppressing his annoyance. It doesn't matter. Scarlett. As long as you're willing to reconcile with me. And his voice became even more syrupy. Scarlett. Can I go upstairs and change my clothes? I looked at his beady eyes staring at me and felt extremely uncomfortable. His fan said he looked affectionate even when looking at a trash can. He really believed that. Didn't he? I waved my hand. Blake smiled and approached me. Then he was grabbed from behind by the security guards next to me and escorted out. Blake, what cow? You have great fortune waiting for you. In the following days, I moved to a new place. And I called the loan sharks, telling them that the person who owed the money had appeared and they didn't need to search under every bridge anymore. Yes. 3 months ago. I found Ivy and told her a way to make money. I asked her to get Blake to sign a high-interest loan when he was drunk and happy after learning the news of the child. Now the debt collectors were searching everywhere for him. The first time, they slashed his face. Because they heard that this pretty boy used to rely on his face to make a living. The second time, they cut off Blake's little finger. The third time, they crippled one of Blake's legs. The next time I saw him, he could only limp towards me with a branch he picked up by the roadside. This time, his eyes were finally full of pleading. Just like the look in his eyes when the box door opened in my previous life. Full of pleading and a desire for redemption. Then I had someone hold him down and crushed his broken leg with my high-heeled shoes. I listened to his screams of pain with pleasure. Scarlett. Save me. A few million is nothing to you. I can always stay by your side. Don't you love me? I laughed and pressed down even harder. In extreme pain, Blake even wet his pants. I stepped back in disgust. What on earth makes you think that I, Scarlett, would want a disabled ugly person? Then I gave each of the guys holding him 5,000 and yuan as compensation for being disgusted. Before he passed out, I heard Blake mumbling to himself. Why was I reborn? If only I hadn't been reborn. I smiled. People like Blake, the ungrateful type. Even if he were to live in that world, one day he would surely fall from a high place and be smashed to pieces. I looked at Blake, who was lying on the ground like a disgusting pile of mud, and thought for a while. Well, this is what I'll do. I'll send you to northern Myanmar. You can not only earn money there but also avoid debts. That's the place where in the previous life he sent my father. I still remember that he looked down at me haughtily and said, Scarlett, aren't you just relying on your father's money? You didn't take Ivy's life seriously and turned me into a money-making machine. People like you, who have lived a life of luxury since childhood, have no heart. You don't care about us poor people. A burning cigarette but was pressed against my face. I just want you to lose everything and send your rich father to northern Myanmar to be a slave. When my thoughts came back, I watched with a smile as Blake was dragged into the car. When he woke up and seemed to realize something, he struggled desperately. Scarlett. Let me go. You often go to the orphanage to help children. I'm an orphan too. Why can't you be kind? You didn't suffer anything in this life. Why do you still keep hounding me? I was so angry that I laughed. Just because the harm didn't happen doesn't mean the scars don't exist. Besides, I, Scarlett, have never been a kind-hearted innocent girl. An eye for an eye is the truth I believe in. Since he has hurt me like this, I will definitely pay him back tenfold or even 100-fold. I arranged for people to report Blake's situation regularly. And I specifically instructed them not to let him die easily. A year later, I successfully took over my father's company and turned it into a giant in the entertainment industry's brokerage business. Jasper became the top artist in the company. He was no longer the naive kid who would look at my face even when saying something sarcastic. But he still liked to confirm everything with me. Sister. What are you thinking? He waved his hand in front of my eyes, looking at me with bright puppy-like eyes. Nothing. I was just thinking. Have we met a long time ago? The puppy immediately smiled. Sister. You finally remembered me. He was also there when I gave a scarf to Blake at the orphanage. Sister. You gave me a band-aid and carefully helped me put it on, telling me to take good care of my little face. My thoughts drifted far away. I remembered that under the ginkgo tree, heading to a child fell off the tree while climbing and got a cut on his face. I gently blew on it for him and put the band-aid on. The child's eyes were just like this, brightly handing me a ginkgo leaf. Sister. This one is the most beautiful. No wonder. When I died in the previous life, although he was still an unknown young artist, he desperately ran towards me and covered me with his coat. He choked up and asked the doctor to save me. Thank you. Huh? The kid was slightly stunned. But I won't like you. Artists are just products that need to be marketed for me. Love isn't a necessity for me either. I have a lot of more important things to do. The puppy hung his head. After being dejected for a while, he suddenly raised his head. It's okay. Sister. I can accompany you to do charity work and help you stay at the top all the time. If we walk side by side, it can also be considered as being together, right? Later, I heard that Blake was having a really hard time over there. In the first month after I sold him to northern Myanmar, Blake experienced how evil human nature could be. His broken leg, due to lack of timely treatment, gave off a stench. More than a dozen people in the same dormitory held him down and forcibly cut off his thigh again at the root. Blake cried and shouted, begging them to let him go. But among the crowd, someone just laughed and said, "We were told that you're just a beast. We can do whatever we want to have fun." Blake didn't last long and was completely broken. Such a wretch didn't even have the qualification to be a slave. He could only crawl around the compound to clean the toilets. Later, because he tried to escape, he had one eye and one kidney dug out. Perhaps God was on my side. Even in such a state, he managed to survive. Survive to suffer. Later, someone posted a video online, saying that while traveling there, they met a disabled person crawling along the street to beg. He looked a bit like the former marketing savvy star. Netizens jokingly said it was Blake, who was hyped up but met his downfall before achieving full success. But he seemed to have no tongue and just whimpered as he crawled towards them. Finally, heading to Seldwydsai, he was dragged by a few fierce-looking people by his deformed leg and thrown onto a pig transport vehicle. At the end of the video, his only remaining eye stared fixedly at the camera. I had said it. Living is much scarier than dying.